Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone who has joined here today for the very brand new session episode of Entrepreneurial Experience Sharing. And today we have a young, energetic female entrepreneur who is also the founder of a very interesting product. So, without much delays, let me welcome Ronali Pereira, who has joined here today. Hi, Ronali.
Hi.
All right. So, let me start from this question. What is Ronali Pereira?
um, I think all of us ask ourselves this question, right? So I don't think I fully know who Ronali Pereira is either, because definitely along this journey from the time I did become an entrepreneur, I have started to discover more about myself that I didn't know. So I feel like the question of who you are is a constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly growing question. But what I do know is that I am an entrepreneur, and that is a part of who I am. It is a part of my DNA. It affects every decision I make, everything I think about, because being an entrepreneur to me is not just a job. It's not like, a 9 to 5 or something where you clock off, after you're done with work. It becomes deeply ingrained in who you are. And, the work never stops. So even if I choose to go on a holiday or take time off, I'm constantly working. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And Ronali, can you walk us through? If you look at your education, where did you school? What are the areas you studied? What was your interest at that time?
So I schooled at Ladies College and Colombo International School, exactly like half and half. I love Ladies College, but at the time they didn't have English medium, and I found Sinhala is a bit difficult, which is why I switched to CIS. Um, I after that I went to Australia to Monash University, where I studied a Bachelor of Arts, double majoring in criminology and behavioral studies with a minor in sociology. So, nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. And then I moved back to Sri Lanka in 2013. Um, Not sure what I wanted to do really. Um, and then I worked. I've worked in almost every field, to be honest. As I came back, I worked at an NGO. Then after that, I worked for the Chogam. After the Chogam, I worked for the Foreign Ministry. After the Foreign Ministry, I was the marketing and branding manager for a gold jewelry company. After which, I worked at MAS. And while I was at MAS was when the idea for Raw was born. And I informed my employer that I have to do this, and then they said, yeah, you can do it while you work here, and that's how Raw began.
That's interesting because your studies, the areas that you have studied, and work exposure, like it's completely different to what you do right now. But yeah. Now, what about the spark to become an entrepreneur? What was the spark to start this Grow organization?
I would say for me it was a very spiritual thing, because I kept questioning, like every place that I worked at, the places that I mentioned, I loved my job and I was really good at my job, but I kept feeling like I'm meant to do something so much more. Like this is not, where I'm meant to be. So through this journey of discovering and trying to figure out like what am I meant to do, where am I meant to be, it was a constant question. And I would ask God as well, like, God, like, what am I meant to do? Like, this can't be, where I'm meant to be. And through this questioning, it was the first Sunday in 2016 when I was at church. I heard this voice saying, do organic cold pressed juices. And I looked around me like thinking, is there somebody just, trying to play the fool or say something to me? And then I heard it 3 times. And I was like, okay, this has to be something. I must go do research on it. And when I did research, I found that these organic cold pressed juices were used long time ago to help people reduce non-communicable diseases by giving them high doses of organic juices. So I did research on it, and I was like, wow, like this is really interesting. And when I went in and did more research, I found out that in Sri Lanka, the most deaths per year is due to non-communicable diseases. So I realized this is a huge problem, not just in Sri Lanka, but globally as well. So in Sri Lanka, when I started, I found out that it was 65% of deaths a year caused due to non-communicable diseases. And now, almost 5 years into me running Raw, it is at more than 75% of deaths. So, this is a really, really alarming statistic, because non-communicable diseases can be easily prevented by a healthy diet and lifestyle. So just by, having your 30 minutes of exercise a day and having at least 400 grams of fruits, vegetables, and greens in your diet. I think that is an area a lot of us fail in consuming that daily amount of fruits, vegetables, and leafy greens. So that was another place where I thought, okay, Raw is going to solve this problem and give people their daily requirement of fruits and vegetables in an easy to drink bottle. So that's how it started.
That's wonderful, the way you have started this journey. But you have a very interesting brand name, Raw. How did you come up with this brand name?
So, I mean, Raw, obviously, other than the meaning of it being raw, not uncooked, actually stands for Refreshing Ayurvedic Wellness. So, I mean, I will touch on this later on. For me, Raw is not just a juice brand, it is a lifestyle. So it starts with the juice, and I am building, my empire slowly of where I want the brand to be. So with that vision of where I wanted it to be in 15, 20 years, was how I came up with the name, because Refreshing Ayurvedic Wellness I can do anything with that brand, right? So that's how I came up with the name. And I wanted it to be truly unique to Sri Lanka, which is another reason why, like the juices, if you check online, there's like thousands and thousands of cold pressed juices around the world. The difference is that the ingredients I use for Raw are not found in any other juice anywhere else in the world. So that I always knew that I needed something that was going to be unique, my value proposition, so to speak, that would separate Raw from any other juice. And the uniqueness about it is the produce that is used. So, for example, there's things like, Gotukola, Mukuruana. I don't know if most of the students would even know these things, but Hatavaria, Tebu, Sarana, Karapincha, all these things in the juices, which have very unique medicinal healing properties that other juices around the world will not have. So I wanted to bring in that Sri Lankan heritage piece as well, so that people will learn more about Sri Lanka. So ultimately, like, my dream is to be a global brand. So working towards that.
That's fantastic, because you put the Sri Lankan touch towards your brand, and at the same time you want to become a global entrepreneur. Now, when it comes to starting a business, especially if you look at Sri Lankan context, we know there are a lot of barriers that we encounter. So in that case, what sort of family support that you received from your family, from your parents, or if you have siblings, what sort of support you got from them?
To be honest, in the start of my journey, I didn't get as much support as I expected, because I think it came from a place of, I think Sri Lankan parents don't like us to take a risk. They want us to always be safe, right? And the safe option for me was to stay at MAS. Because I was getting a really good salary. I had health insurance, transport was provided, food was provided, very easy life. So my parents were wondering, why am I sacrificing all of this to work so hard and get not get even half that salary, or that income. But I saw my business years ahead. I knew that in the start. I mean, you can ask any entrepreneur, you can read about all the greatest business people, and they will tell you when they started, it wasn't easy. It's very difficult, and the number of hours you have to sacrifice, the amount of friends that you can't meet, and the amount of friends you will lose who don't understand what's going on or what this journey is all about. It's a huge sacrifice to choose to be an entrepreneur. So I guess my parents didn't really understand why I was doing this to myself. Because when I was working full time at MAS, I started raw. So they were like sleepless nights, because I would go to work, come back home, make the juices, clean the house, keep them for delivery, like wake up in the morning at 5, and day in and day out. Weekend, I'll go to have a stall, no rest at all, no time for anyone, just raw and work. That's it. So they didn't really understand. But then I think about almost 2 years into the business, when they saw that my sales were increasing, and they saw that this was actually something that people liked, and they saw where the business was going, then they really supported me. And in fact, it was my mom who told me at one point, because I came to this point where my workload at my corporate job was getting too much, and I had to cancel orders with customers. And at this point, there were other competitors who had started doing the same thing. And I didn't want them to, overtake me at all, because I was the one to start it. And then I had to make a decision. Like, obviously, I can't, tell my full-time job, hey, can I take time off? I need to work on my side hustle. So I had to take a decision. And I was, my health wasn't that great. I was getting sick all the time because of lack of sleep and stress and all of this. And then, I was so conflicted, because I loved my job at MAS as well. Um, and then I was asking my parents, I'm like, what should I do? Do you think it's time to leave? And then my mom, to my great amazement, said, you know what, life's too short, just do what makes you happy. And which is something I never would have expected her to say. But yeah, I just decided, and I quit my job and got into raw full time. And I mean, best decision I made. I would never go back to working a corporate job again. There's truly nothing like working for yourself. And yeah, I think it's difficult to go on this journey if you don't have the support of your family. It's very, very important to have them backing you, but don't expect it from the onset. You need to prove to them that this is something that you are serious about, and for them to actually want to support you on it, rather than it just being like, oh, I want to try this out, and then in a few months be like, oh, it's not working out, I want to quit. So really, really focus on it, and I'm sure like family will support you.
That's unbelievable, the commitment that you have shown towards your own business, and at the same time the obstacle that you hurdle through. It's managing your corporate life and at the same time starting your own business. So it's never an obstacle to become an entrepreneur. That's the learning. And also, if I'm to theoretically contextualize you, I would say you are a visionary entrepreneur, because you always driven towards your vision, and you have proven it as well. Now, I've been doing some research and reading about your business, and then I realized the fact that you're doing a lot of community development. You're not just doing another business. This is not just another startup. There's a lot of things going back on your business. Can you talk about this community development and opportunities that you have created for your employees?
Yeah, so raw employs only women, because I saw a real gap in this area, in terms of labor force participation of women in Sri Lanka. It is extremely low, and it's quite similar across Southeast Asia as well. And I feel like women need to be given more opportunity. Now, most of the women that actually all of the women that work for Raw are the primary breadwinners in their families, because their husbands either have some sort of drinking issue, or they don't have permanent work. They are daily wage earners, so they don't have that fixed amount every month. So from the time I started it, I was adamant to make sure they got their EPF, ETF. um, I mean, constantly I give them loans all the time, to get whatever they need. Out of my 4 staff, 2 of them have bought their own motorbikes, which I think is great. It gives women this sort of freedom and mobility. And we support 17 farmers. Out of the 17 farmers, 8 of them are women only farmers. And yeah, we do a lot of awareness on sustainability, which I think is really important. And we educate our customers on why it is important to even purchase. I mean, whether they purchase from me or not, just raising that awareness on being a conscious consumer. So for example, at Raw, like, all the juices are made using solar energy. And all the produce that is like all the pulp waste is composted and used to, that compost is used as fertilizer for some of the produce that I grow at home. So it's completely sustainable business, glass packaging, cloth bags. um, yeah.
That's amazing, the extent that you have gone to, like bringing sustainability into your business. That's unbelievable. And my next question is, it's about the standards that you maintain, because if you look at food and beverage, the industry itself, there's the biggest challenge, I would say, is to maintain and retain the standard and the quality of the outcome. So in your case, as a startup organization, how do you maintain these quality and standard of your outcome?
So I have a supervisor who's been with me for around 4 years now. So almost the whole journey she's been there. I have given her like very, very strict guidelines in terms of quality checking. And so they follow those principles. So she has taught the others also what needs to be followed. Um, to be honest, the quality, I think, is something that has been very high with Raw from its inception, because for the first 2 years I used to make the juices myself. uh, and then I've hired my first staff 2 years into Raw. And then after that I hired another girl and another, and now I have 4. I haven't been making the juices, I mean, for I don't know how long now, maybe about 3 years I haven't. And I have some customers who've been purchasing from 2016 from me, and they say that it tastes exactly the same. So they didn't even know when it transitioned from me making the juice to somebody else, the it has remained consistently the same. Which I think is really important, because I mean, I have some customers who think that I still make their juices for them, which is okay, because that gives me the assurance that the quality has not changed at all. And to have customers with me who've been purchasing from 2016, that says a lot about the quality, for me. And I have a zero tolerance policy in terms of quality if there is any foreign object found in the juices, because it is food and beverages. And I mean, even personally, if I bought something from somewhere and I found someone's hair in it, or something that shouldn't be there, I would never purchase again, because you need to have that quality and standard. So that is one thing I've told them. If I find anything like this in any of the juices, they're fired on the spot. Anything else I'll tolerate, I'll deal with, but this is zero tolerance.
It's great that you have given number one priority to the quality of the outcome. And if I'm to do a small retrospect, if we go back to last year, and especially we know it's not the best year when it comes to business because of the lockdowns and the pandemic that we encountered. what were the strategies you followed to survive and sustain your business during the pandemic, if you look at during the pandemic and also post pandemic, post lockdown situation?
So basically, March till May, I made a decision to close Raw, because it's a home based business at present, and I didn't want. I mean, I don't know where my staff has been, where they're traveling to, who they're meeting. So I didn't want them to come home because my parents, like my dad is over 70, my mom is over 60. I didn't want to put them at risk, and for that reason I decided to close for 2 months. Those 2 months for me was actually pretty good. I mean, the staff was still getting paid like half their salary, and I was sending them like ration packs and all these things, so they were well looked after. Of course it was difficult in terms of revenue, but I didn't have many overheads because it's home based. So it's not like I had major like rent to pay or like bills, electricity bills to pay or anything like that. So it was okay for me. I was still cash flow positive. um, so yeah, it was okay, and I think that time I used it to reflect a lot on the business and areas I can improve in, and it was good quiet time. So I saw it as a positive thing, to be honest, because given this rat race that we're all in, it's really hard sometimes to just get time for yourself and to reflect on things and look at your business from the outside and really see how you can develop it. And this was the perfect time for me because there was no customers I needed to speak to. There was no like day-to-day operational work. The world was pretty much silent, and it really gave me a good solid 2 months to really plan and strategize for the future. And then I opened in May second week or so, before the official lockdown ended. And even during that time, we practiced every possible safety precaution. The girls were picked and dropped by my dad to their homes and back here, and they were asked not to go anywhere else. Of course, face masks, temperature checks, disposable surgical gloves, all these things were practiced, and the produce was washed extra. So we would wash the produce at least 5 times. So all these things were done, and honestly, since we opened up, sales have been pretty good. As soon as we opened up, sales skyrocketed. Like it was probably the highest that I had seen in a while, because I think people realize the importance of having a healthy diet and lifestyle. But then obviously in terms of the revenue for the year, it wasn't as expected because of one lockdown, then another lockdown. And I think it's just a case of people were more concerned about themselves and like figuring things out for themselves rather than ordering juice. um, but yeah, I think it was definitely a learning, and I think it was an important lesson for everyone that anything like this can happen, and you always need to have not just a plan B but a plan C, D, E, F, G, in place in case something like this happens. And I think it's going to be a long time before this situation really goes away. Living with COVID is something that will have to be the new norm and something we're going to have to get used to. And businesses will also have to adapt to this change.
Wonderful. I would say I've met only few people who have taken the last year and the pandemic in a very positive way, and you have reflected on yourself, and there's sort of learning from your end when it comes to the pandemic time period. That's amazing. Now, if I'm to look at your business, obviously it falls into health and wellness, right? And what are the strategies that you use to promote health and wellness and healthy lifestyle?
Um, for me, healthy is a lifestyle. So it's if you I mean, I think it's impossible to be 100% healthy all the time because we're human, right? So if you are healthy at least 70 to 80% of the time, that is really good. So just doing little things like spending 20 to 30 minutes in the sun each morning to make sure that you're getting in your vitamin D, drinking enough water for the day, consuming enough fruits and vegetables, just doing those little things, 30 minutes of exercise a day. Those little things I think are really important, because end of the day, if you don't have your health, what's the point of all the money, all the riches, all the dowry, all anything? Nothing really matters without your health. You can't enjoy anything. So I think that we really need to place a lot of importance on our health and our wellness, and it is our responsibility. You can't expect anybody else to do it for you. So like, people need to prioritize their health above all else. It is something very, very important for you to have a long and happy life.
It's wonderful the way you look at the life and your perspective towards healthy living. Now, when it comes to your business, Raw, what are the plans? What do you want to, Raw to become within the next 5 to 10 years?
Um, so I have a lot of plans. Within the next 5 years, definitely, I would like to be a global brand. So working towards that. A lot of things are changing for me this year. Like, this year is a very, very important year for me. In terms of my juices, so at present I have a 3-day shelf life, which is very difficult in terms of distribution. But there's this technology that will be available around mid-year this year, which will give me a 120-day shelf life. So that will be an absolute game changer. And my whole business model is going to completely flip. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. By that time, I hope to have raw available island wide, and then slowly work on exporting raw as well. So yeah, really exciting stuff. In 5 to 10 years, I want raw to be like, I want everyone to know what raw is in Sri Lanka, especially. Like, it should be like, how everyone knows Coca-Cola. I want people to know what raw is, but obviously for the opposite reasons to why they know the previous brand. But so I want to build the brand to that level. At some point, I want to expand my product portfolio, have other health items that come out of raw, and basically provide people with everything in terms of health and wellness. Like, raw will be your one-stop shop to get everything health and wellness related, and that is where I'm moving towards.
That's wonderful. The product portfolio that you have thought of for next 5 to 10 years. Now, if I'm to ask you a different question now, not related to your business, what is your purpose in life?
Asking me all these philosophical questions. um, I don't know. I mean, I think my purpose in life is to inspire people, and to spread awareness on health and wellness, and all these things. And I really think that that is my purpose, because so far I have spoken to around 15 students who've interviewed me for their thesis in university, on entrepreneurship and all that. And after every conversation, I feel like I have helped them or imparted something to them in terms of how to run a business, or like how to be a sustainable or conscious entrepreneur in this new age. And I really think that that is my purpose, and I really enjoy speaking to the younger generation, because that is the future, and we really need to build them up. That is the most important thing.
Okay, let me come back to the final part of today's webinar. Not only even for this session, and for if you look at our institute itself, we have a lot of young people, undergraduates, young undergraduates, and entrepreneurs. What sort of advice that you can give as a female young entrepreneur yourself what sort of an advice that you can give on entrepreneurial front?
Um, I would say when you think about being an entrepreneur or starting a business, it's really important to think, am I solving a problem? If your idea comes out of a place where you're solving a problem that people face, your business will definitely be a success. So I think that's very important. I mean, I'm just using this as an example. I'm by no means, looking down on them, or saying anything to that effect. But, there are hundreds of home bakers, right? I mean, I get it if baking is your passion, but what are you what problem are you solving? You know, um, I feel like a truly successful entrepreneur, somebody that has a very bright future ahead, is somebody that really thinks to solve a problem. If you really figure out a way, I mean, I don't know, like just an example at the top of my head, say that the older you get, it's harder to bend down and tie your shoelaces. If you come up with a solution for people to easily be able to have their shoes tied for them, that would be a problem you're solving for a significant number of the population. So really thinking about issues that people face, problems that they have in their day-to-day life, and solving it will really um, you know make sure that you will be a successful entrepreneur one day. Another piece of advice would be, you really need to have a lot of patience, and it's not easy. Like, trust me, there have been days that I have wanted to quit. It's been really hard. Like, my hands and my feet would be so swollen and red, like, after juicing, and no sleep. I'd be so tired, and I'd be like, I can't do this, it's just too much. But you really need to just keep going, not give up, no matter what. Like, because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect other people to believe in you? So that is just something you really have to have. Just be patient and believe in it. And you need to be a resilient person that is not going to give up, that is not going to take no for an answer. And if you keep pushing forward, then I mean, the sky is honestly not even a limit. It all depends on you. And I think it takes a particular type of person to be an entrepreneur. I know, like, being an entrepreneur is like a very cool thing to be in today's day and age. And a lot of people think, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur just because, it's like the new thing. And if you look at the entrepreneur culture in Sri Lanka, it hasn't been around for that long. Like, I would say 10 years or so. Before that, if you look at people who are entrepreneurs, it would be people who have inherited family businesses from their father or their mother or something, and who are taking it on. Like, in my opinion, that is not truly an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who takes something and takes nothing and turns that into something. That's a true entrepreneur. And yeah, so it's something you really need to think about. It's if you choose to be an entrepreneur, you have to think this is a lifelong commitment. It is not a oh, I'm going to work like these fixed hours a day, and after that I'm going to live my life. No, it is a serious commitment, and you need to know that you will have to make a lot of sacrifices. If you're not willing to make those sacrifices, do not choose the life of an entrepreneur. Because I mean, I'm sure a lot of you would have heard this quotation that says an entrepreneur lives a few years of their life like nobody else will, to live a few years, to live the rest of their life like others never will. So you need to sacrifice X amount of years if you want to live the dream. But that sacrifice comes at a very heavy cost, and you need to have a very good support system around you.
All right. That's amazing. And one last question from my end, and then we'll open up this Q&A session for the participants. Now, you belong to the startup ecosystem in Sri Lanka. What is your perception on startup culture and ecosystem in Sri Lanka?
To be honest, I don't think that it's developed enough, and there isn't really a good support system. Especially in terms of, like, okay, say you have an idea and you want to start up a business. A lot of young entrepreneurs that I talk to, they haven't been, I mean, they don't know anything in terms of how do you register your business, how do you do your logo and trademark registration, how do you file for, you know, taxes, do you go for a sole proprietorship or do you go for a limited liability company? There are so many things that you don't know. And you know, I was lucky enough that my father was an entrepreneur himself, and he used to own a clothing like a garment factory. He used to export garments to Europe and America. So he was able to guide me to a certain extent. But other things, I mean, it was constantly, it took a lot of time for me to research and talk to people and ask people of what I needed, what needed to be in place, like what I need in terms of starting a business. So I feel in Sri Lanka that ecosystem isn't properly developed. Over the past few years, there have been a few things. So like there's the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce, then there's the, you know, the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has started a new category called, I can't remember, something to do with entrepreneur something. So it's for startups and entrepreneurs under the Chamber of Commerce, which was only started maybe about a year ago or so. So it's still like growing, it's still developing. Also, there isn't much support from the banks in terms of getting loans or any of these things for funding and stuff. So I think Sri Lanka is a long way, you know, behind in terms of the startup culture and ecosystem. If you compare Sri Lanka to countries like America, Australia, you'll see a very big difference. I mean, even Singapore, they do have a lot of these systems in place to support and build this ecosystem. And if you look at the statistics, there is quite a percentage of income being generated, revenue being generated in the country by startups and by small to medium enterprises. So, I mean, that fact alone should give the government enough incentive to support this ecosystem and to grow this sector.
Right. And that's also one of the objectives that we have at APIIT Inc. We are trying to create awareness. We are trying to educate our undergraduates to start their own enterprises and, you know, to go ahead with their entrepreneurial journey. And when I look at the Q&A that we have a couple of questions. I can tie up these two questions, and I can put it in this way. What are the issues that you face? I think I've asked this question earlier as well, but it was the question is now, let's say, currently, what are the issues that you face when it comes to taking your business to the next level?
I guess support, like the support system in terms of um, the country. You know, there isn't much support to grow your business from a certain level onwards. And I think also some issues I faced when starting was that people really don't take you seriously, especially when you say you're an entrepreneur or a startup, or you want to be an entrepreneur, or you're trying to start a startup. People are not very supportive or conducive to that in Sri Lanka, because they straight away think, are you like, you know, like there is no faith attached to it at all. They really don't understand that whole thing, because there's no security, there's no safety. It is a huge risk you're taking. It's like a gamble on your life almost. So it's very difficult for people to take you seriously, and I found that really difficult, like when I started, especially being a girl as well. It makes it more difficult because people are less likely to take you seriously, especially when most of the suppliers are male. um, so they have this, you know, certain conception in their head about you know, doing business with women and stuff. So it is difficult, but I mean, that just makes you stronger, and you just learn how to deal with such people and, you know, show them that you really mean business. So yeah,
I think that's one of the inherent obstacle that we have in our country, particularly for female entrepreneurs. And we have a very interesting question. Can I see a sample product?
yes, 1 second. I have drunk most of it, but there you go.
There you go. Right. You have a lot of ingredients in it: carrot, narang, king
So I have,
coconut.
yeah, carrot, narang, king coconut, turmeric, ginger, and honey. So the juices have no water, no sugar, no additives, no preservatives. So it's 100% juice.
Amazing. I would become one of your customers from this after this particular webinar itself. And also, you have a lot of wishes, Ronali. A lot of people are wishing you in the chat box that we have. And yeah, one another question: what are the shops that we can buy your products?
So at the moment, it's not stocked. Place an order through the website or through any of our online platforms like Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and it's delivered to your doorstep.
Amazing. Um, right. Yes, a lot of wishes are there, and of course, yes, it's a truly inspiring organization and a concept. And I would like to, see Ronali as a global, entrepreneur in a global platform, and that's your plan as well for the future. So let me wish you all the very best and success in that regard. And thank you very much, Ronali, for joining us today and sparing your time with your busy activities going on with your business. Thank you very much once again on behalf of APIIT. And thank you very much for all the participants who have joined here today. Any final word, final thoughts, Ronali?
No, I wish all of you the best of luck. And yeah, if any of you ever have any questions and you want to start, you know, a startup, or like, you need advice or anything, just feel free to drop me a DM on my Instagram page and I'll be happy to help you. So I will always find the time to help young entrepreneurs who are serious about this journey, because that's something that I didn't have in the start. A support system, like of entrepreneurs who succeed, because I also feel in there's like culture of jealousy where people are okay to see you doing well as long as you don't do better than them. So I felt like there wasn't really much support from a lot of people, and I want to not be that way. I want to support and help other female entrepreneurs. I did this thing during right after lockdown where I supported 19 other female startups. So we did this like mega giveaway with all of them, and so all their brands were healthy or sustainable, eco-friendly, Sri Lankan made, along the concept of raw, like the similar concepts. And basically what I did is I did one-on-one Instagram live sessions with them, so that my followers got to know them a bit more and understood what they do a bit more. So I did all those talks with all of them, and then finally did this mega giveaway, so that people like awareness was raised about their brand, what they do. Some of them were single moms, some of them have been through a really tough life, like so many stories. And yeah, I started this small little network for female entrepreneurs. We help each other, we support each other, we started a WhatsApp group. And yeah, I think it's super important that we support each other. So if anyone has any questions or would like to ask me anything, yeah, please feel free to drop me a DM on Instagram.
Wonderful. So anyone who is interested to contact Ronali, there you go. You can DM her and build a network and get some support, whatever that you want. Righto. Thank you very much, Ronali, for joining today. It was a wonderful session, and also let me thank everyone who has participated this webinar. I hope we have created a lot of awareness about healthy living and healthy lifestyle, and Ronali is there in upfront, taking that healthy lifestyle to your end. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll be meeting you guys with another dynamic young entrepreneur like Ronali within due time. Until that, take care and stay safe.